I want to start keeping track of all the films that I've watched. So here you go. I just watched. It's films I just watched. You got it? Good. Okay, let's go. From what I've seen from Paul Thomas Anderson, this is one of his best. You can really tell this was a passion project of his and that he had a lot of fun making it. I enjoyed a lot of the choices he made with the camera, particularly with the long takes, really dragging you into the world and letting you see all the parts. I never thought I'd see the day where I liked John C. Reilly in a movie, but he was actually really good. But by far the best character besides Alfred Molina was Burt Reynolds as Jack Horner. I love that he thought of himself as a genius in the art of talent scouting, and that he knew everything there was to know about this specific business. And when he fell apart later on, he kept denying it. Same with Mark Wahlberg's character. All these characters go through their own stages of grief, that they are no longer on the top of their game, and they slowly get more and more desperate. I enjoy the conversations between these characters, especially the ones who act in the films, since they aspire to be more respected and well-rounded. But all their conversations are the most shallow and insignificant things you can think of. Like how Eddie and Reed have a conversation about how much they bench. It's lifeless and stale, but it's all these people know. And the more you think about it, the more you realize how sad these people's lives are. They sell their bodies to Jack and are stripped down until they have nothing left behind their eyes. And we learn early on in the film that Eddie is only 17 years old. If you want to be a cynical asshole about it, you could say that this film is just Goodfellas, but with porn instead of the mafia. And you could definitely tell that PTA was inspired by Scorsese. But what makes this film stand on its own is the subculture itself. Everyone who's in this business believes that they are on the same level as professional Hollywood actors. They realize the hard way that people aren't watching them for their impressive acting skills or their gripping plots, like how Don Cheadle's character Buck Swope tries to get a loan out for his audio hardware store, but the accountant won't help him. They all come to realize by the end that the only reason they're successful is their bodies, and more specifically in Eddie's case, his massive dick. Honestly, the ending of the film where he accepts it and whips it out in front of the camera is the funniest and most genius way to end this film. Overall, I had a great time with this film. It was fun and slightly intense, my favorite scene being the one with Alfred Molina and the kid with the firecrackers. It really shows how low these literal children have gone and what they have to do to make ends meet. I'm not good at ranking films. I feel like it would be pretty shallow of me just to boil it down to a number, but all I can say is that you should definitely watch it. Now, before you get up all on my ass about this, yes, I've seen Rocky before, but I haven't seen any of them since I was a kid. I mean, I remember all the popular scenes, like for instance...
What's your prediction for the fight then?
Prediction?
Yes, prediction.
Pain.
Or...
I must break you.
Yeah, but those are just the memes. It wouldn't be right in my eyes to give a proper opinion on them until I've seen all of them as an adult, so I'm gonna go through as many as I can and give an opinion on them as I watch them. Anyway, this film won Best Picture in 1977, and I can definitely see why. I mean, it's not my favorite film from '76, but it has something for everyone, while also standing on its own as an all-time classic. That's not to say I don't have issues with it, because I do. The plot moves pretty slow at points, which I guess you can't blame the film too much. I mean, it was the '70s, that was kind of the thing at the time. Carl Weathers seems a bit undercooked. Apollo Creed doesn't seem to have the character he would come to have in the later films. In the later films, I remember him being my favorite character. In this one, he just seems to be there just to be motivation for Rocky to overcome. And finally, Rocky being a loan shark didn't seem to go anywhere either. I was expecting that to play a bigger role than it did. In fact, his boss, his loan pimp, even gives him $500 when he learns he's fighting Apollo, which seems odd. I say all this, but the thing is, there's an explanation for all of it, in the sense that the main driving force of this film is the growing relationship between Rocky and Adrian. This dynamic between Sylvester Stallone and Talia Shire oozes chemistry. The way Rocky always talks and the way Adrian always listens, the way Rocky gets frustrated at Paulie that Adrian doesn't seem to be taking a liking to him after several attempts to make her laugh, the part where Adrian buys the dog Rocky always interacts with at the pet store. It's all very real and amazing to watch. The ending of the film is also perfect because Rocky and Adrian both realize that Rocky becoming the champion isn't what matters most. Rocky went the distance and proved himself, and now all they need is each other. Rocky can be satisfied with himself, and now Adrian can be confident in herself since she knows she has someone she can rely on. You can tell Adrian has never had someone rely on her as much as Rocky does. Her relationship with her brother Paulie gives that impression. The boxing actually isn't the focus, and honestly the actual fight in the movie only lasts for like 10 or so minutes. My favorite scene by far is the exchange between Rocky and Mickey at Rocky's apartment. Burgess Meredith absolutely steals the scene in the beginning, completely breaking down and telling Rocky that he doesn't have that long left to pursue his dream, and Rocky has an opportunity to fulfill that for him. But Sylvester Stallone with his powerful monologue takes the scene to the next level. Rocky is frustrated and confused, but you can tell that all he's doing is letting his anger out. While he is angry at Mickey, he's also angry at himself. There's a wide shot where we can see Mickey walking away while we still hear Rocky yelling in the background. But right as Mickey almost gets too far away, Rocky runs towards him, and we know exactly what he's saying to him. We don't have to make any assumptions because it's all laid out to us. Both characters have a complex past and can relate to one another, but both of them are a little past their primes and are more than a little bit bitter about it. They had opportunities, but they came and went. If people ask what an example of how real people act when dealing with anger in film, I think this is a great example to point to. Rocky forgives Mickey just as quickly as he got mad at him. He had to get his anger out and then he could let it go. But once he did, he was ready to move on. After watching this again, I'm definitely going to be revisiting the rest of the films. This film was huge and another Best Picture winner from its respective year, and this one arguably had even stiffer competition, with films like The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, Dr. No, Harakiri, Lolita, and other classics coming out the same year. This film has stood the test of time, and for a lot of people, it's objectively the best film ever made, and this is the first in the line of what I'm calling classic dad films. Films that your dad or grandfather or some older member of your family won't shut up about until you watch it. I guess technically The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly was also a classic dad film, so I'll just add another one to the counter. There we go. Over the course of the First World War, the British tried to make landings in the Ottoman Empire, but with next to no luck. So they sent Officer Thomas Edward Lawrence into one of the only established British bases in Turkey to try to unite the Bedouin tribes. Now this film was based on real events that took place over the course of 2 years, condensed down to about 3.5 hours. So if you look at it like that, the runtime isn't so daunting. And it really isn't. This may be the most engaged I've ever been with a 3+ hour long film, but I thought Peter O'Toole looked really skinny to be playing a soldier in the heat of battle, but I soon realized that his small stature is part of his character. Lawrence is a smart and passive man who through combat is turned into a ruthless killer and becomes hungry for battle and fame. He may become more battle-ready and ruthless, but he never loses his sympathy. And by the end, he actually commits suicide because he can't come to terms with the fact that he yearns to kill. Now I say that he becomes a bloodthirsty killer, but it's not really shown on screen. But you can tell during the run of the film that a switch has flipped in Lawrence's head. There are 2 scenes that I think really hit home for me, and one is the scene where Lawrence goes back to rescue one of the lost members of the tribe when they are on their way to overtake the city of Aqaba. He does a strangely selfless act and rescues somebody he barely knows. This shows the rest of the Bedouin tribe that he's leading a better example of how to unite together. The second scene is almost the complete opposite. We find out that one of the tribe members has stolen from the second tribe that's also with them, and the thief turns out to be the very man that Lawrence went back to go and rescue. To appease both parties, he plays judge and jury and executes the man before everybody. This is the scene where the switch flips. We learn later on that he enjoyed killing that man, and he's angry at himself for loving it. It's honestly really interesting to watch as we see Lawrence transform from this timid man into a leader of men. Overall, this film is pretty great. All the sets are intricate and interesting, and all of the acting seems pretty spot on. I'll definitely be watching this for a 3rd time, and probably more as I get older and tell my kids about it. Hopefully I can keep the classic dad film moniker going. So I hope you enjoyed that. I thought I could do a smaller video between the next part of my Good Will Hunting review. I can't promise that it'll be the very next video. Maybe another one of these will come out before that, but if you're watching this sometime in the future and it's already out, then just go and watch it. This is another step I'm taking to tracking my film knowledge through the years. If you want a more immediate update to what I've seen, then check out my Letterboxd. I'm curious to see how my opinions change as I grow and get older. So yeah, if you want to join me in that, then subscribe. Anyway, thank you. Bye-bye.